We're good. Perfect. All right, so in today's lesson, we're discussing giving opinions. So first, we're going to look at a sample dialogue, and then we're going to look at some grammar and vocabulary points. And finally, we'll move on to our homework assignment for today. So in this dialogue, can you see it? In this dialogue, I'm going to give you about 45 seconds to read through by yourself, and then when we're finished, we can discuss a little bit and you can ask me any questions you might have.
Okay.
Okay. Ready, go. All right, so that's about 45 seconds. Did you get all the way through or not quite?
I understand the sentence meaning.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you understand generally what's sort of happening here?
They are talk about this year vacation.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So let's practice. I'll start as Jake, and you will read for Melissa. Okay, ready?
Okay.
Where should we take a vacation this year? Let's decide soon.
No, what?
Okay, so we're going to practice speaking this dialogue.
Okay.
And I will practice as Jake, and then you will practice as Melissa.
Okay.
Okay, ready? So where should we take a vacation this year? Let's decide soon.
Well, I'd like to go somewhere warm. How about the beach? Or we could rent a cabin on the lake.
You want to go to the beach again? I want to ski this winter. How about a compromise? Oh, sorry. What about traveling to the Alps in Europe next April? We can find a ski resort on a lake.
Oh, we've never been to Europe before, but I don't know if it will be sunny and warm then. I need to do some research first that will help me make up my mind.
All right, great job. So I noticed a couple things. When we have a period like this, we call it a full stop. And so with a full stop, when you're reading or speaking, we fully stop speaking. So, but I don't know if it will be sunny and warm then. And then pause for a bit and then move on to the next sentence. I need to do some research first. That will help me make up my mind. So let's switch. This time you be Jake and I'll be Melissa. And so let's really pay attention to these full stops.
Now I try Jake.
Yes.
Okay. Where should we take a vacation this year? Let's decide soon.
Well, I'd like to go somewhere warm. How about the beach? Or we could rent a cabin on the lake.
You want to go to the beach again? I want to ski this winter. How about the compromise? That's right?
Okay. Compromise?
Compromise. What about travel to the Alps in Europe next April? We can find a ski resort on a lake.
Oh, we've never been to Europe before, but I don't know if it will be sunny and warm then. I need to do some research first. That will help me make up my mind. So in this paragraph where Jake is talking, the first thing he mentions is skiing. And so it's not super important that you know this right now, but it is pronounced ski. And it's when you go down a mountain of snow on what we call skis. So it's a popular sport in some of the snowier areas of the US. And then the Alps are just a mountain range in Europe. It's just some mountains. So these location and sort of strange vocabularies aren't super important for you to remember. I'm just explaining to you so you can more fully understand the context of this conversation. Okay. Sorry. I also really liked the way that you asked this question. You want to go to the beach again? For a lot of questions in the US, we have two types of questions. One question where you're expecting the answer to be either yes or no. This is an example of that question. You want to go to the beach again? My answer can be yes, I want to go to the beach again. Or no, I don't want to go to the beach again. And when we have questions like this, we call them yes or no questions. The tone of our voice rises at the end. You want to go to the beach again? And so I noticed how you asked that, and I really liked it. And earlier, when you asked, how about the beach? It's the same thing. How about the beach? Yes, the beach sounds good. No, I don't really want to take a vacation to the beach. But this question, where should we take a vacation this year? The tone falls. And the reason the tone falls is because the answer he is expecting is something other than yes or no. So where should we take a vacation this year? I think we should go to Europe, or I think we should go to the beach. It's not a yes or no question. So let's practice a little bit asking these types of questions and playing with the tone of our voice to show what sort of question we're asking. So why don't you go first and ask this question here? Where should we take a vacation this year? And make sure the tone of your voice is falling.
Where should we take a vacation this year?
Perfect. All right, so that sounds really great. And let's practice one more time. Let's go with how about the beach? And the tone of your voice should rise.
How about the beach?
Perfect. Okay, so that sounds really good. And it's just something to keep in mind when you're asking questions to somebody. The tone of your voice should either raise or fall, depending on the question you're asking. Okay, let's move on to some language notes. I know these are a bit hard to see, so let's make them bigger if I can. Sorry. Okay. There we go. All right, so in the very first part of the dialogue, we have this word decide. And this word is a verb that we use to express choice. So you can choose to do something, or you can decide to do something, and they both have the same meaning. The idiom at the end here, make up my mind, by itself, each word doesn't make very much sense in that sentence. But when we put these words together, it forms an idiom that also means to decide. So let's take a look at this example sentence in italics. There are so many choices in this menu. It's going to take a while to make up my mind. Or if you wanted to substitute the word decide, it's going to take a while to decide. Both of these sentences mean the exact same thing, but one of them is using an idiom. And native English speakers like to use idioms like this in their everyday speech. So let's practice with make up my mind. And I'll ask you a question and you don't know. You're having trouble making up your mind. So you should respond like that. What should we have for lunch today?
To make up my mind.
So if I'm asking you a question, what should we have for lunch today? And you don't know. You can't decide. You can say, I'm not sure. There's too many choices and I can't make up my mind.
I can't make up my mind.
Yes. And so I can't make up my mind. This sentence means I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Okay, so let's try again. I'll ask you a different question this time, and you can respond with this idiom. What is your favorite thing to study?
For studying? Studying is hard, so I can't make up my mind.
Perfect. Yes, that was a great sentence. All right, so that was a really, really good use of to make up my mind. We can also use this idiom in a positive sense. So if I have decided, I can say, okay, I've made up my mind. We're going to have pizza for lunch. So why don't you try the positive form of this idiom and notice how when I say I've made up my mind, the make turns to past tense into made. All right, so why don't you try a sentence saying I've made up my mind, and the topic can be where you're going on vacation once coronavirus ends.
Vacation before I decide go to the Naju, but because coronavirus, so I can't make up my mind.
All right, perfect. So that was great. Let's try one more time in the positive form. So you can't make up your mind where you're going to go on vacation because of coronavirus, but in the past, you've made up your mind about where to go. You've decided where to go in the past. So why don't you try using to make up my mind to say that you have decided something. So I'll say a sentence with decide, and you change the sentence to made up my mind. Okay, so I have decided that later today I will take a nap. Okay, so now replace decide with made up my mind.
Make a sentence.
Okay. Yeah, so if I said, I have decided that later today I'm going to take a nap, I can also say, I have made up my mind. Later today I'm going to take a nap. So we can say, I can't make up my mind when you can't decide about something. Or we can say, I've made up my mind when we have already decided something. There's two ways to use this idiom. Does that make sense? Okay. So
difficult.
Yes, idioms are a bit difficult. For now, though, just focus on can't make up my mind, because it seems like you have that one down really well. And then if we have time at the end, we can come back to this one, the other form. But for now, just focus on can't make up my mind, because it seems like you understand that one pretty well. All right, so moving on to our next language note, how about? So this is a phrase to give somebody a different choice. So if somebody said to me, well, let's go on a bike ride today, and I don't really want to ride my bike, I can say, how about we go swimming? Or how about a movie tonight? So Somebody asks me something and I don't want to outright say no. I don't want to directly say no because I don't feel comfortable saying that. So instead, I will give them another choice, something that I want to do. How about we go swimming? How about a movie tonight? Okay, so do you have questions about how this phrase is used? Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, so let's practice a little bit. I will suggest something to you, but you don't like my idea. So you're going to suggest a different option with how about. Okay?
Okay.
So let's go back to our example with lunch. Let's have sandwiches for lunch.
Sandwich?
Mm.
I think sandwich after I'm still hungry. How about hamburger?
Ooh, perfect. All right. So that was a really good example. You gave a reason why you didn't want to eat sandwiches, and you proposed an alternative with how about. Okay, so let's move on to our final language point here. So we have a lot of verbs that we use to express our opinion, to tell our opinion. Let's look at these first two here, to think and to believe. And both of these phrases mean pretty much the same thing. You can switch them out with each other. So if you're giving your opinion with think or believe, you're just saying your opinion, and it can be about anything. You can say, I think the weather today is quite nice. I think that the color blue is really pretty. I believe that hamburgers are the best food in the world. So why don't we practice with to think or to believe? You can choose either one or use both, but tell me about an opinion that you have.
I think Gwangju very nice city.
Very nice. Okay, so these words are just to express your opinion very simply. When we move on to these verbs, to suppose or to assume, things get a little harder. With these two verbs, and again, they can be switched out, they have a slightly different meaning than to think or to believe. With suppose or assume, when you're saying these words, you already have an idea about something, and you're assuming something about it. For example, I could say, I had assumed that this room was yours, but you told me it's your brother's. So I already had an idea about the room, and I gave you my opinion about it. I assume that that is your room, but it's not your room. Or I could also say, I assume that your Chinese is quite good. I think your Chinese is good, but I'm not 100% sure because I haven't heard you speak Chinese before. So this difference, it's a very subtle difference, but it is there. So why don't we practice with to suppose or to assume?
Can I try to make a sentence?
Mm-hmm.
I assume the professor very nice.
Yeah, so that works. That works. So before you take a class, you can say, I assume the professor is very nice, but I don't know because I haven't met them yet. All right. And so at the very end here are some more examples for assume. He came back late from work, so I assumed that traffic was bad. They don't know that traffic was bad, but that's what they think. Here, I suppose that may have been the case, and that I suppose that may not have been the case, and that he might just have had a lot of work. I think maybe traffic wasn't bad, he just had a lot of work, but I'm not sure. Okay, so let's practice with this just one more time, and then we'll move on. So let's use to suppose this time.
Suppose. Suppose. Supposed fight are fully booked day. Now we are 뭐라 해야 되지? Which day we could go? Could we go?
Okay. Can you say it one more time? Sorry, the audio cut out for a second, so I couldn't hear you clearly.
Okay.
Sorry, just one more time.
뭐라고 해야 될까? Suppose.
It can be the same sentence from before. Yeah.
I suppose the coffee shop's coffee is very nice.
Very nice. All right, so that was a really good example, and it seems like you understand the difference between suppose, assume, and think, believe, which is really great because I think even for people whose English is very, very advanced, this is a difficult subject, but after some practice, you really got it. So I'm very happy with that. Okay, let's move on to some grammar and vocabulary points. So we mentioned earlier this how about when we're proposing alternatives, but there are some other phrases we can use to give somebody different options if we don't really like what they suggested. So the first one is what if? If somebody asked me, let's stay home today and cook dinner, I could say, well, I don't really feel like cooking. What if we went to McDonald's instead? We already talked about how about, so let's move on to what about. So let's stay home and cook dinner tonight. I could say, what about going to KFC instead? I don't really feel like cooking today. So all of these have the same exact function. They can be used in the same situation. They're just different phrases that you might like to remember in the event that somebody gives you an option you don't really like. So let's practice with what if first. Why don't you go ahead and make a sentence with what if, and yeah, so I will say, because the weather is so nice today, let's go on a long walk. So go ahead and try and use what if.
What if today weather is very hot?
Yeah, so that was another use of what if. So that was saying about a possibility. Well, what if the weather is really hot? what if we get too hot? So that is a good use of what if. But another another way we can use what if is to give another choice. So I could say, well, what if the weather's too hot? And what if instead we just stay home and watch a movie? So why don't we try using what if to give an alternative?
Try again.
Yes, sorry.
Okay. What if today weather is hot? And then what if we go to swimming pool?
Perfect. All right, last one. We already practiced how about, so let's go with what about, and we'll use the same example. I think that the weather today is so nice, so let's go for a long walk. And try making a sentence with what about.
Okay. Actually, I don't want to walk today. So what about going to coffee shop?
Perfect. That sounds much better than going for a walk. All right, so that was really good. It seems like you understand these phrases. These phrases are good to just kind of keep in your mind so that you can very quickly propose an alternative. Alrighty, and then finally, let's discuss this vocabulary word, compromise. In the text, I wasn't really expecting for you to know what compromise means. It's a bit of a complicated vocabulary. The actual definition is to settle an argument by having both sides give up something they want. Here's an example sentence. They couldn't decide whether to go to the cinema or stay home and go to sleep early, so they compromised by watching a movie at home. So a good way to understand compromise is visually. So if I am here and this is my argument, and my mom is here and this is my mom's argument, and I say, I'm going to stay up until midnight so I can hang out with my friends. And my mom says, no, you have to go to bed at 8 p.m. and finish all your homework. I could say, well, what if I went to bed at 10 p.m. and went out with my friends? And my mom says, no, you should go to bed at 10 p.m., but you have to finish your homework. So finally I say, okay, I'll go to bed at 10 p.m. and finish my homework, and I can still go out with friends. So me and my mom, both had to give something up, but we came to an agreement in the middle. Does this make sense? Okay, so I won't make you make a sentence because it's a difficult word, but as long as you understand the meaning, that's good. So do you have any questions about the meaning of compromise?
No, I understand that.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's move on to our homework assignment at the very end and make it smaller. Okay, so it says, oh no, you and your friend got into an argument about where to eat dinner. What can you say to her to come to a compromise? Write a short essay and bring it to the next class. So it can be a very informal letter if you like, but you should try to use some of these language notes, the suggesting alternatives, as well as this idiom to make up my mind. All right, so do you have any questions about the homework?
No.
Okay. Alrighty, so then one thing, we only have a little bit of time left, but I did want to discuss culture a little bit. So I know one thing that people in the US hate is saying no directly. That's why we have so many ways to propose alternatives. We don't like to just say, no, I don't want to. It's seen as a little bit rude. I was wondering if in Korea it's the same way, or if people can very directly say no. So in Korea, is it the same way? Do you have to give an excuse? Or can you just say, no, I don't really want to do that? So I'm wondering about if you can tell me about Korean culture. So I said in the US, we can't directly say no. It's a little bit rude. So I was wondering if you could tell me if in Korea you can directly say no, or if you give excuses like this too.
I think Korean too. Korean people, I think they can't say that's no. I don't want that.
Yeah. Okay. So it seems like it's quite similar, which is interesting too. All right. So I think that just about finishes up our lesson for today. Did you have anything else you wanted to ask?
No.
Okay. Alrighty. So I'm really happy with how our lesson went today. You worked really hard, so I'm happy. I will send you this document after we finish calling so you can review.
Okay.
All right. Ready? Bye-bye.
I'm so happy to see you.
I'm happy to see you too. Bye.